Hello and welcome to another game of Company of Heroes. And I got a special one for you today. We have a rematch between Backman and PAX AJAX. Both of these players are top of their respective ladders. PAX AJAX is actually 13th in the world as the American Army, and Backman is currently 62nd on the ladder as West Germans. Map today is going to be Langreskaya. They just played a game probably 30 minutes ago on Faymanville approach. So I'm excited to see the rematch here today. So this map, let's quickly talk about it before we get too much action going on. So there's two critical points for both players. This one here, you can see this point sort of extends way out here like this. And then you've got the same thing going on this side with this point for the German player in this case. So what this does is it breaks the map out in such a way that if you want to control anything over here, you have to control this point. And same goes for this point. If you control this point, you have access to all of your resources coming in from over here. So what tends to happen is we see some quick little fights here in the middle where both players are trying to capture one of those 2 points and deny their opponent resources. Now if you want to hold anything across the road, you actually have to control this center point. So it's somewhat unlikely that we're going to see players controlling and really much territory at all on the opponent's side of the map. Fairly quiet opening here. You can see this Pioneer's actually building stuff. He is probably adding on barbed wire and tank traps, so he's adding the barbed wire to deny this cover to his opponent in case he ever pushes him. We got the first skirmish of the game. These Volksgrenadiers have an advantage at range, and they're also in heavy cover here. Well, one of them is. And they're definitely going to win that fight at that sort of engagement range. Now, these Sturm Pioneers are closing with these riflemen here. These Sturm Pioneers are most effective up close, and I actually think they're going to win this fight. Yes, riflemen intelligently retreat. Now, riflemen are not pushovers at close range, but there definitely are more effective weapons, and in this case, those Sturm Pioneers have those weapons. Echelon taking a poke at these Volksgrenadiers, and he's bringing in these Pathfinders. So actually both players have already chosen their commanders. The German player has gone for this recon support company. He actually went for this in the last game I saw him play. Gives him access to these Pathfinders. These Pathfinders can call down artillery. They can also call down artillery flares, which are basically fake artillery. Can convince your opponent that a bombardment's about to happen when it's not. He actually added those Pathfinders quite early this game. So this commander also gives you access to the airdrop combat group, which is a 75mm howitzer. Probably won't see that this game. Also acess to this M8 Greyhound, which I do think we're going to see this game. This thing is anti-infantry, and it's fairly effective against lightly armored enemy vehicles, but I don't know if we'll see it used that way this game.
The lieutenant has been assigned to field ops.
So these Volksgrenadiers have the advantage at this range, like I was saying earlier, but as these riflemen close, they're going to have to get out of there pretty quick. Both players very clearly know the limits of their units. I mean, they're retreating just in time. So the German player has chosen his commander as well, and that's where this 221 scout car is coming from. Now this thing doesn't have as much firepower as its Eastern Front German army brother does, and oh my goodness, that scout car just wiped a rifleman squad. Well done by him. Now he's bullying these riflemen by driving into them. It's forcing the models to get out of the way of the vehicle while this vehicle is still able to shoot. Lieutenant's adding on a rocket. Oh my goodness, he missed. So he added a bazooka to that squad, which is not cheap, by the way. I think it's 60 munitions? 50 munitions, which is not cheap at this stage in the game. And he missed. If that had connected with this vehicle's rear armor, that would have been a dead scout car. So, lucky by the German player, unfortunate for the American player, but he's definitely not out of it. So it looks like our German player's gone up to 3 Volksgrenadier squads. He's adding on some anti-tank weapons now. He's got this M21 scout car, which he's repairing up, and he's added on his first supply half-track. I think we're very likely to see him build this battle group headquarters, which gives him access to his mortar, his flak half-track. You almost never see this infrared. Let me highlight that again. The infrared searchlight half-track there, I don't think I've ever seen that in a competitive game of 1v1 Company of Heroes. So he'll probably won't build that. The reason he's going to add this building on is it gives him access to the... he can heal. I mean, he currently has some med crates deployed here, but he's going to build... He's probably going to add on additional healing here to make sure his squads are healthy without having to spend manpower on them. American players added a heavy machine gun. Not really surprised. I think this is a reasonable map for it. A heavy machine gun can lock down this entire area. Make it difficult for your opponent to cross the road. You can put it in this house, cover this whole area. If you're being aggressive, you can actually get it into this house, which is harder to defend, but certainly annoying for your opponent. See what he wants to do. American player is adding on his Stuart tank. It's a light tank, effective against enemy vehicles, so this M21 scout car from the German player is going to have to be pretty careful. But this anti-tank weapon will definitely make short work of the light tank. A little skirmish breaking out over here. Good job by the Stern Pioneers to get in cover there. And we're seeing a fight break out here. M21 scout cars sitting back at range. Yeah, and this is what I love about this level of play, is you get fights all over the map. I mean, pushing on this right side with the Stuart tank. He's got this anti-tank weapon to deal with. Meanwhile, there's fights going on in the middle. And even the top, bringing in those Volksgrenadier squads, just action all over the place. Hard to know where to watch. Nice job pushing away the anti-tank weapon. I'd like to see him bring his tank in here to push away the scout car. But he's choosing to bring this tank back to defend his heavy machine gun. Good decision, doesn't want to lose that. That was a bazooka hit, slamming into that scout car there. And it looks like our American player just got a squad wipe of his own. I do believe that was a Volksgrenadier squad. So both players have lost one of their squads. It's super early game, so they didn't lose a ton of veterancy there. But it never feels good, and I'm sure neither player is happy about losing that squad so early. I like this decision to bring in this heavy machine gun just to slow down his opponent. I mean, he's obviously not going to control this area for long, just because of the firepower our German player can bring to bear on that area. But, you know, slow him down. You know, why not? Our American player is excellent at shaping the map to his will. I mean, he's built these tank traps that provide heavy cover, and then he's wired off his opponent's heavy cover so that it's difficult for the German player to hold down this area. Likewise, our German player is building these sandbags to be effective against the American. Got more barbed wire over here. It's really well done by both players, maximizing, getting the maximum value out of their squads. Looks like the American player has also chosen to add minesweepers. I don't think the German player is planting any mines right now, but you know, there's no way for the American player to know that, so never a bad decision to add on a minesweeper. Especially in the case of Echelon, because Echelon do not have access to flamethrowers, so adding in that minesweeper is, you know, the default choice. Looks like our American player has added on these paratroopers here. Paratroopers can be relatively flexible. You can go for these long-range LMGs rather. Or you can add on Thompson machine guns to make them extremely effective up close. And it looks like he's elected to go with the LMGs. So he's going to be sitting back with that squad and dealing damage at range. He's also at... Remember how I said we probably weren't going to see this howitzer? Turns out I was wrong. So he did add in the 75mm howitzer, probably from this call-in. And I guess that's where the paratroopers came from as well.
Krauts are taking one of our points.
Huh, I wonder why he did that. Oh, I was wondering why the American player destroyed this cover here that he had wired off. Well, he was actually trying to destroy this sandbag because he doesn't want his opponent using that sandbag. So again, not only are they shaping the map in a way that gives them the best possible advantage, they're destroying what they're holding their opponent back. So, I really like that choice. This is an incredibly aggressive move by the Stuart tank, and I think he's going to pay for it here. Because he's going to get snared. Here comes a snare. There it is. Damaged engine. So now he has to kill this anti-tank squad in order to get out of here alive. And yeah, that's not going to happen. So, questionable decision by the American player. He's certainly not out of it. But he's definitely going to be feeling the loss of that tank for a little while. The German player also added in this infantry support gun. Behaves like a mortar, a lot like this howitzer on this side here. Again, continuing to use this scout car to push squads out of cover and bully them away, and then move in his infantry to make something happen. I really like this player's use of, he's always supporting his own units, right? Nobody's alone. They've got support, either in the form of a vehicle or the form of a howitzer or whatever it may be. German player adding in another... canceled it. He was adding another infantry support gun, which I don't really mind. I mean, this could be a decent map for it, because it can become kind of campy in the mid-game before all the medium tanks come to bear. So, but it looks like he changed his mind on that. Saving up quite a bit of manpower. I'm not sure what he wants to do with it just yet. I think he probably, yeah, so what he did was he actually teched up to this, and that's what he wants to do with his manpower. So he got his Panzer headquarters out, and last game, and the reason the game ended, was because the American player managed to kill this exact building while it was still constructing, and the German player left because that, if you lose that building, it can be pretty devastating in terms of the fuel investment. But this game, it's gone up, and it's gone up in a great place. Look how much coverage this thing has. That green circle is the effective area of this thing's gun once he upgrades it, which he's upgrading it right now. So he can cover his most vulnerable point, he can cover his munitions, and this point doesn't really matter much in the grand scheme of things, but, why not? It's got a nice area to defend. And that building is also going to give him access to his medium tank. He needs about 50 more fuel, so we're probably 2 or 3 minutes away from him having a tank on the field. More like 3 or 4, but soon, right? Very soon. Our American player, on the other hand, has not added he has not teched up to medium tanks just yet, but he does have enough fuel for it. I don't think he's going to add in an M8 here, an M8 Greyhound from his commander. Yeah. So our German has chosen to add on this you try this again. Obersoldaten. Gosh, German is not my strong suit. These guys are elite German infantry. They have access to the LMG. And there's just fights all over the place. I can't quite get it all in the frame. Anyway, this squad is incredibly effective at killing infantry, and it's also quite strong itself. Like it's really hard to kill. Scout car managed to wipe this heavy machine gun squad, but he's gonna. The American player managed to capture it back and get away from it. So nicely done by him. Nicely done by both players, really. And both players fighting heavily for the center point. And actually, I just realized that the American player has all 3 victory points right now. Well done by him. He won't be able to maintain that control, but he did tick his opponent down. Both players relatively equal on victory points. So no one's particularly ahead right now. And the scout car might kill that howitzer, but he's going to have to get out of there because that bazooka's coming in. And he did end up killing it. No big deal. The American... I mean, the big deal is that he lost the veterancy on that unit, but as you can see, he's already picked it up again. German player has added a second infantry support gun. That's going to be fairly obnoxious for the American player to deal with, as these things continuously barrage him as he moves around the map. German player, again, these players just sculpt the map to their liking. He's destroying these bushes here so that he can have clear line of sight in this entire area. He may even want to destroy these tank traps with this particular weapon. And nicely done putting this heavy machine gun in this house to keep his points safe. Those infantry support guns are going to force that out of the house super quick here. Big push by the American. He's got all his forces on this bottom side. He has added on a major, so he does have access to his medium tanks, and he certainly has enough manpower for it. Excuse me, enough fuel for it. He just needs the manpower to buy those medium tanks. I think we're probably going to see a Sherman rather, and looks like I think that was the Pathfinders. Yeah, the Pathfinders called in. Nope, wasn't them. Who was it? It was the Major. So the Major called in a little artillery barrage to force these support guns back. Nice use of that unit's abilities to continue to get value beyond just, you know, their fighting ability. So American players added on a beacon. I believe it gives him vision and also allows his units to be called in more accurately in that area. Like the paratroopers can drop anywhere on the map, and if you drop them in an area with one of these beacons, they can drop very accurately. I don't think that's what that is for in this case, though. There's action all over the place. So we're entering the Americans' strongest point in the game right now. He's hitting the maximum veterancy. He's starting to, anyway. He's starting to hit that maximum veterancy on his squads. He's also got all his squads upgraded with weapons of one type or another, the exception being this rifleman squad. And nice call-in. I think he just called in another artillery barrage with that Pathfinder, so these units are going to have to get out of here. That might be a dead scout car. Maybe. No, he's gonna try. Oh, and it's still dead. That was the howitzer. I do believe the howitzer just killed that scout car. Check, you can see his kill count here. Yeah, 1 vehicle. So the howitzer killed that scout car. Nicely done by him. You know, I haven't had a chance to talk about the German players' commander choice here, other than the scout car. There's 2 big things he gets access to. One is these heat shells. They do additional damage to vehicles. They also penetrate armor a bit better. But the really big thing they do is the damage. Like it can take it from 4 or 5 shots to 3 or 4, like 1 less hit, and that can be really big in tank fights. Tank fights are often decided by a single shot. They also get access to this Sturm Tiger. If the game goes on long enough, I think it's very likely we'll see this thing. One of my favorite tanks in the game. Basically, it's extremely heavily armored, and it's really slow. But once it gets in position, it can fire an enormous rocket. And when I say enormous, I mean 376 kilogram rocket. So that is a huge, huge explosion. Really fun to see. But after it fires, it has to reload for a while. It's also vulnerable to having its crew killed while it's reloading, which can be super annoying. So high risk, high reward tank. Really fun to see. We got a bit of a big battle brewing here. American players pushing in. Looks like an artillery barrage was called in over there. This overslept. He's got to get out of there. American is definitely going to win this handily. Both players have added on a tank, so our German... Oh! Did he wipe it? No. What the heck? I think that was a visual bug. Yeah, he's calling. Thought it was dead for a second there. So this, the German player has added on a Panzer IV, which is sort of a jack of all trades, sort of do everything. Our American player, on the other hand, has added this Wolverine. Not a Wolverine, just the M36 tank destroyer. There's a Wolverine variant that's slightly smaller than this one. But anyway, this thing has a huge gun. Long range, lots of damage, high penetration. It's a tank destroyer, by all means. It's also fast, so it can get into position. It can be where it needs to be to fight enemy tanks. Its one major drawback is it's lightly armored and it has very low health, so it can go down in 3 or 4 shots from a tank of equivalent size. So we'll probably see it hang back. He was using it exactly how you want to use it, where he had his infantry in front. He was spotting the enemy tank and allowing that superior range to do work for him. Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, before that, before the tanks got involved here, we've got the American players hitting his stride, hitting his strongest point in the game right now. He's adding on his medium armor, his squads are getting to that maximum veterancy, and he's added on weapons to all of his squads, so everybody's more effective at fighting, whether it be against tanks or against infantry. The German player, on the other hand, has a ways to go before he hits his ceiling. He is vetting up on all these squads, but they don't... all of these squads can go up to Vet 5 instead of Vet 3, which gives them access to additional perks. It just takes a heck of a lot longer to get there. You can see these Volksgrenadier squad is already Vet 5. And nice try by the American player. He pulled his tank up here, and then he can't actually see through the bush, and you have to have line of sight in order for something to attack. But what he did is he attacked ground in the hopes that that shell would connect with the tank. It didn't. I still commend his effort. He's trying again. Another miss. As you can see, that attack ground, even if you tell it to attack ground exactly where the enemy tank is, it's still not very accurate. So I think we might see a hit here, though. Yep. And now tank's probably gonna... Yeah. He's still trying. I wouldn't mind seeing that tank roll over here and actually have line of sight on that thing. Nice hit again through the bushes. Really well done. He's microing that. He's telling it to attack ground. HMG squad just died here. Not a huge deal for either player, but it's going to allow this German player to capture this point, probably. He's going to steal it. That was very risky. That is a Vet 5 squad. He definitely doesn't want to lose it, but he did end up capturing it. The American player has added on this Sherman. So Shermans are also jack of all trades, except that they're slightly worse in vehicle combat when compared to the Panzer IV. This Panzer IV will beat a Sherman 1v1 most of the time. But what the Sherman has access to is it can actually switch its shell types. So currently it has high explosive rounds loaded right now, which makes it more effective against infantry. But it can swap to armor piercing, which he actually just did. He just switched it to armor piercing because he wants to fight this tank. Nice smoke grenade. So that's coming from the howitzer, smoking off this area so that he can move in his tank relatively safely. Great play by him. I think that was the howitzer. Not 100% sure now. Oh, it was actually the Sherman giving itself a smoke screen. So, nice job.
The enemy is overrunning one of our capture
Good choice, keeping him safe from those anti-tank weapons. And I really love the aggressive use of that Sherman. knowing he had those smoke grenades to back himself up. American player trying to deny fuel on the top side, and I just, American player has done just a phenomenal job controlling this map. I mean, you can see in the victory point total that it's getting pretty dire for our German player. Like I said, the American player is definitely at his strongest point right now. This German needs to control he needs to control two of the victory points for pretty much the rest of the game in order to stay in this. Which is not, it's a tall order, so let's see how it plays out here. I think we're probably going to see a concerted push in the middle here. I wouldn't mind seeing this German player, loop around here and snag this point away from where all those squads currently are. German player continuing to wipe his opponent's units. I mean, he wiped that heavy machine gun earlier. He's wiped this howitzer a couple of times, but the American's not letting him keep him down. He's just picking those weapons right back up. That is a dangerous place to be, but that is a nice artillery call-in. What was that? I think that was the artillery call-in from this, that's actually one of his perks, so he can add Panzer commanders to his vehicles, gives them additional sight range, and it also lets him call in that artillery barrage, basically forcing his opponent back. Nicely done. Yeah, and the German player is trying his darndest to control two of these points, and every time he captures one, he loses another one, so... It's gonna be, if that Sherman can't stay there for long, that's for sure. Nice. I think that was an attack round. Good hit of the tank destroyer there. And this is a pretty big push by the American player to get this point back. So even if our German manages to capture both of these points, he's gonna have to continue to control them, and we'll see if he's able to do that. I will say our German player has added on a second Panzer IV, which I really like. Having two of these medium tanks is going to make him considerably stronger. Nice artillery barrage by the American player. Well, that wasn't artillery, that's a mine drop. That's a lot of dead squads. That's a lot of dead squads. Wow, they lived. A lot of them lived. That's big. These things are really high veterancy. I think they're still going to die. And that might be the end of the game. Wow, especially with that Panzer IV going down. There's the other Panzer IV. Wow. What a push by the American player. Excellent use of these cluster bombs. And there's the surrender. Wow. So, I won't spoil the other game for you, but, well, I think I already did, actually. The American player came out on top for a second time here. PAX AJAX showing us why he's top of the leaderboard. I mean, he used his army to perfection. I think he lost one squad early, one rifleman squad early, and then the only other thing he lost were his support weapons, and that's sort of to be expected. He made great use of both of these tanks. I mean, this Wolverine in particular has done a ton of damage. It's almost veterancy 2. So, well done for this tank. I mean, this Sherman was in there getting value, killing infantry, pushing him back, distracting him. I mean, that whole charge with the smoke was really nice. And, I mean, most importantly, he controlled all the points, and he just did it the whole game. It wasn't like he was focused on points sometimes, and sometimes focused on resources. He was constantly controlling the victory points. And he just held his opponent down. I didn't see any major mistakes from the German player this game. I know he just got totally wrecked in this final push, which often happens at this stage in the game. So I don't hold that against him. He did lose 2 Volksgrenadier squads, but I'm sure it was, in the line of duty. And I never was unhappy with his unit composition. And maybe a couple of extra Volksgrenadier squads could have kept him in this a bit longer, but I don't think that's what broke him. I just think that the American was consistently and persistently aggressive at controlling these points. So, really fun game to watch, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. See you in the next video.